This is Barb Bruno. We're right at the top of the hour, and I like to start on time for those of you that hopped on time. And just so you know, you will be getting a recording of this session because I'm going to share a tremendous amount of information. And I'm also going to open the lines at the end of the call where you can ask me questions. And so as I'm going along, if you come up with any questions that you want to ask me, just write them down because I will allow as much time as we need to answer every question you have when I'm done with this particular presentation. I think the one question I'm asked more than anything else right now is what's next? None of us could have predicted the last 2 years. As a business owner, I follow certain economists, I watch trends, and I don't think any of us could have predicted the pandemic or the impact that the pandemic had on the workforce and workplace. I mean, it has been 2 crazy years. The good news about what's been going on is everything that's going on is very good for our profession because our services are needed more than ever. You know, when you listen to the news on TV, all you hear is how people can't find talent, how jobs are staying open for longer than ever before. You hear about the great resignation. And I don't know about you, but no matter where I travel, there are help wanted signs everywhere. You know, and you've got many companies that are closing or limiting their hours and not getting projects done, not hitting deadlines because they can't find people. So that's all good for you and I. But I think the question is what's next? Like, how do you prepare as an owner to continually grow your business no matter what's going to happen? And with inflation at record rates right now, there's a lot of talk is there going to be a recession? Like, well, how is this going to impact what you and I do for a living? So one of the great advantages that I have is I've done courses for LinkedIn Learning. And so I have access to a lot of their big data. And so I'm going to share a lot of those things with you just to help you prepare. Because as a business owner, you and I both know that, every so often opportunities hit us or a trend, appears on the surface. And unless we jump in, we're going to get run over by our competition. So when I think about, what's going to change, what's going to stay the same, what's next, there's only one certainty in the staffing and recruiting profession, and that's that the workforce and workplace will continue to change. We are never going to go back to the way the workforce or workplace was pre-pandemic. A great example of that is all the people that only want to work flexible. In fact, my recruiters are complaining constantly, like, does anybody want to work on site anymore? And yet companies are now bringing people back, and so you're going to see this constant workforce, work plane continue to change. And so how do you anticipate what's coming down? How can you grow your company regardless of what happens? You're probably frustrated at the amount of business that is being written but not filled because of the incredible lack of top talent. I'm hearing this all the time, that owners are just, beside themselves. Imagine if you filled 100% of the business that your salespeople are writing. Imagine what your profits would be. Imagine how much more your people would be earning. However, a candidate-driven marketplace is where your business should be making the most money because this is when your services are needed more than ever. And every time I'm doing training for recruiters, I do weekly training for recruiters, and they're always complaining about the lack of talent. And my advice to them is, you know what? Every time you hear yourself complain about there is no talent, it's hard to find people, I want you to get down on your knees and thank God, because that's when you're going to make the most money. And again, I'm going to explain a little bit more of this as I get into the program, but a candidate-driven market is good for you and I. Now let's talk about current and future realities affecting the workforce. Number one is less than 50% of the current workforce is working a traditional 40-hour work week. This is the first time in the history of our country that less than 50% of the workforce is working the traditional Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 work week. Now that includes, shift work. I mean, people that are working, 3 shifts at manufacturing companies, that's still considered their traditional 40-hour work week. But what a lot of people are doing is working 2 part-time jobs, or they're working as an independent contractor. They're working as a temp or a contractor. They're working for organizations like Fiverr or Upwork. Or look at what Amazon has done to the workplace. An Amazon warehouse opened probably 15 minutes from my home, and it has literally killed the restaurants and retail stores in our area. Because at Amazon, you can pick your hours, and as long as you work 20 hours a week, you can get tuition reimbursement, and you can work whatever days, whatever hours, whatever is convenient for you, and they're paying probably $5 more an hour. than anybody else that is hiring that level of talent. And so are people looking for companies like Amazon, or what about Grubhub or Instacart? You know, there are people that can earn a few $100s a day just by delivering groceries. And so this has all really played into the fact that less than half of the population is working the traditional 40-hour work week. Another thing, where people used to work temp or contract when they couldn't find a job, now they're working temp and contract as a choice because they want unlimited vacation time. And if you're working as a temporary or a contractor, you can take however many weeks you want in between your assignments, can't you? And so again, less than 50% of the workforce is working for a traditional 40-hour work week. Over 55% of the current workforce are now millennials and Gen Z. And if you find yourself blaming the millennials on everything, those millennials, got to stop doing that, because over 50% of the current workforce are millennials and Gen Z. And many of the millennials are now the hiring authorities that you're working with. By 2025, that is 3 years away. In 3 years, over 70% of the workforce is going to be millennials and Gen Z. Now, do they react the same way that other generations before them reacted? The answer is no. Are their priorities the same? The answer is no. But since this is going to represent the majority of hiring authorities you have and candidates that your company is going to place, you've really got to start understanding the priorities of these two generations, because they're going to be the driving force of your business. Now, since February of 2020, there's also another trend. 1.8 million women have left the workforce that have not returned. Now, many more than that initially left the workforce, but almost 2 million women have not returned. And there's many reasons for that. And the primary reason is childcare fell, mostly on the woman in the family. You could have two spouses working, but normally, the childcare and the virtual learning, and you might say, well, COVID is behind us. Is it really? Because there's part of China that is now closed down with a new strain of COVID. And so COVID is always going to be there. It's not going to be as shocking as it was in March of 2020, because we're a little more prepared. But what are you going to do? And if you yourself are trying to employ women, childcare has become a major, major issue. Also DEI, diversity, inclusion, and equality. Women are looking to earn what men earn. And in our profession, they pretty much do when they're working on the commission side. But if you compared what managers in the staffing and recruiting firm make, or how many women are actually seated at the board of director table or are in the C-suite of some of the larger staffing and recruiting firms, women are not represented near at all. And again, I've created 15 courses for LinkedIn Learning. And what this has allowed me to do, I also conduct weekly calls for hundreds of job seekers who don't know what I do for a living. So they have no clue when I get on the phone. I just go on and say, hi, welcome job seekers. Welcome to today's job seeker call. And as a result, job seekers complain about recruiters all the time. And this helps me understand the realities that our teams are facing. And this is the reality that your recruiters are facing. Candidates are being bombarded by unsolicited email, in-mail, and calls from recruiters. In fact, I was just doing some training for LinkedIn on how do you train people how to write in-mail that are actually open more frequently, because most in-mails are being, ignored right now. Most candidates feel like recruiters treat them like a number. They feel that, in fact, they'll say, well, we realize that recruiters only care about filling jobs. They don't care about me, because they call, they're always pitching a job, and almost always the job is not what I want to do. And it's interesting to me that they look at my LinkedIn profile and say that they've got the perfect job for me. I don't want to do what I'm doing now. And so, most candidates are being so bombarded by recruiters who don't know how to approach them in this new market that they're just turned off, that they're just ghosting every recruiter unless they sound different. Most are not interested in a new opportunity exactly like their current job. And I've always laughed when we go to our clients and they give us a job order, a contract, or a temp assignment, and they tell us exactly what they want. If we find somebody that has everything that they want, that's a lateral move for that candidate. You've got to find a candidate where this is a little bit of a stretch. That's why I've been, recently training. And if you're not doing this, write this down, because this is not on the hand. It won't be on the handout, but it'll be in the recording. Have all of your salespeople ask for 5 performance objectives. How is the person going to be evaluated that you place in a job? Whether you place them on a temp assignment, a contract, or a direct hire job, how are the candidates you place going to be evaluated? Because you know what I've realized? That when I ask my clients for performance objectives, often I will look at them and go, well, you're not asking for some of the things they're going to need in the laundry list of skill sets you gave me, and yet you gave me a lot of skills this person is not even going to be evaluated on. Let's talk about what you really need. And so when you get 5 performance objectives up front, and you know how your candidates are going to be evaluated once you put them out on a job, it really does improve engagement, retention. You're not going to have candidates come back and say, get me out of here. And it reduces that laundry list. And I'm telling you, candidates are not interested in making a lateral move, even if it's more money. You know, they want to learn something new, whether it's a contractor or a full-time employee. Contractors definitely want to learn something because with every contract, they want to be more marketable. And so if you find somebody that has exactly what your clients have asked for, that person's going to turn that job down because they want to learn something new. They want to grow. Millennials and Gen Z are always looking for self-improvement, career improvement. You know, that's extremely important to them. And so you have to realize they're not interested. You can't call somebody and say, I've got your resume or CV. I saw your LinkedIn profile and I have the perfect job, because you have no clue what they want to do next. They absolutely value flexibility, individual and career growth, and the impact of their work. You have to know what impact the jobs that you're going to eventually present to them, what impact does that have on a company achieving their goals? That's extremely important to millennials and Gen Z, and our recruiters are not addressing that. Most of them have had prior experience working with a recruiter. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this statistic, but staffing and recruiting firms place less than 5% of the people they attract, because we have to look for experience, skills, and stability, and most of us have a niche. And so we attract a lot of people that we're not going to help in a job. We place less than 5% in jobs, whether I don't care what type of firm you have. And so 95 out of 100 people that you attract, you don't help. And often when people have had a prior experience with a recruiter, it wasn't a positive one. And so your recruiters have to realize this. On the other hand, most people are open to change jobs if the opportunity represents one thing: career advancement. Number 9 is something that you have to work on as an owner, because most candidates feel that all recruiters are all alike. In fact, they call us you people. You people call me all the time. Whenever you hear the word you people, you know you're in trouble, because your recruiter is not sharing their brand. They're not sharing differentiators. Nobody wants to hear what we do. Nobody wants your recruiters to call them up and say, we do this, we do that, we do this. That doesn't work anymore. You know, candidates want to know one thing: how am I going to benefit by talking to you versus the other recruiter that calls me? And so your recruiters have to realize they've got to address that what's in it for me every time they're talking to one of their prospective candidates. And with no follow-up, candidates really feel like they were a commission check, especially if you're in direct hire and you place somebody in a job and you talk to them almost every day, and then you place them in a job and they never hear from you again. They're sure you've earned your commission, and as a result, they're never going to give your firm referrals. They're never going to come back to you in a couple of years when they're ready to advance in their career, because they just feel like a commission check. And so I'm not saying that all of these things are legitimate, but this is what I hear from candidates over and over and over again. This is how they feel about us. In addition, and as a result of the way they feel, they're going to schedule interviews on their own. They're more networked now than they've ever been in history. They're going to arrange interviews through other sources, especially if you only send a candidate on one interview. Unless you're working retained search, the minute you book a candidate on an interview, you've got to market them to other companies that they want to work for to get them multiple interviews. They are going to receive a counteroffer from their current company. They are going to talk to other people about their interviews, and they're even going to consult like spouses, significant others, and friends. I love when we're representing a candidate and they come back and say, well, my friend told me that I should be earning more money. And our response is always the same: we didn't realize you had a friend in the employment industry. Well, no, my friend actually is a restaurant manager. You know, so you've got to know how to overcome some of these things. And they're going to go up on money and demands as the process continues. And sometimes our clients help them because our clients say money's not an issue. You and I both know money is always an issue. Candidates are sometimes going to bend the truth if they think it will help them. And again, often they're just shopping to see what salary or pay rate they can get. Now, salary band laws, you've got to be very aware of salary band laws because they exist in 17 states, municipalities, and cities. So some states have passed them, some municipalities have passed them, some cities have passed them. So you have to know if, in fact, you've got salary band laws where your company is housed or in the areas that you're placing, the geographic areas you're placing in, because then you can't ask about past salary, and neither can your clients. And lastly, candidates don't care about your opinions and they're not going to listen to your advice. I mean, they're tired of it. And so your recruiters always have to address that, what's in it for them, to talk to them, listen to them. But if you say, in my opinion, or what I would advise you to do, it's almost like candidates just quit listening. Because again, all they care about is how we can benefit them. They want things based on facts. They don't want opinions and they don't want advice. They just want facts. They want to know why they should work with your recruiters as opposed to all the other recruiters that are bombarding them with calls and texts and emails. Now let's switch over quickly to the client realities because our clients have changed too. They are being bombarded by unsolicited contacts from staffing and recruiting firms. And if there's one thing they hate more than anything else, because I'm doing a lot of my training, I don't know if all of you know this, I'm only speaking when I'm out there doing conventions and conferences. I'm doing 50% to our profession, but I'm doing 50% of my speaking to your end users. And so I attend technology conferences. I just spoke at a CEO conference. I go to manufacturing conferences. I'm trying to get in front of the people that use us and educate them on how to use us and how we can value them, because no one else is doing that. And I can tell you, they tell me instantly that the one thing we hate more than anything else is we run a job board ad and then we're bombarded by calls from recruiting firms. We've just spent thousands of dollars on a job board ad, and then we have all these recruiting firms call us. And quite frankly, Barb, what we do is we write down who calls us. We're not going to do business with them because they should have called us when we didn't run a job board ad and told us why they wanted to do business with us, why they've targeted our company, why they feel they could help our company find talent, not the lazy, sales way where they see a job board ad, they know we have an opening, so they're bombarding us. And then worse than that, when we have given them the business, they're giving us the same candidates that we're getting when we run job board ads. When did recruiters stop recruiting? If you're providing all these paid resources for your recruiters, do you realize that job board ads only attract 15% of the workforce? That's it. Job board ads, website postings, companies in 2021, here's another statistic from LinkedIn. In 2021, companies spent $2.5 billion on job board ads. That's with a B. You and I can't compete with that. If you put a job board ad, you can't spend near the money your clients are spending. And they do not want you to call them when they run a job board ad. They want you to call them and tell them why you've targeted them. What are their, uncover their challenges and give them reasons why you really want to work for them. They've learned to hide behind technology because they're being bombarded by recruiters. And they will ghost you if they don't see the value in talking to you. Clients are no different than candidates. I like to say they all got a tattoo on their forehead, and the tattoo is WIIFM. Every time you're talking to a client, every time your recruiters are talking to candidates, all they have to do is constantly tell them how they can benefit by the conversation, how they can benefit by utilizing your services as opposed to your competition or as opposed to, using their own resources. We complement their own resources. They're going to, of course, post jobs internally. They're going to do website postings. They're going to do job board ads. When those don't work, or sometime in concert with those efforts, they will use us, but we've got to show them candidates they're not getting from their own resources. And like I said, they're spending more money than you and I can. They're always going to make decisions on what's in it for them. We either make our hiring authorities look good or we cost them money. Turnover is extremely costly, and they don't judge you and I based on the number of people that we help them hire. They judge us on the people that they hire through us. Do they become engaged and retained? And again, something I mentioned earlier, getting performance objectives when you're writing job orders, contracts, and temp assignments is critical, because if you know how somebody's going to be evaluated, you share that with your candidates. And we've had candidates withdraw from the running. It happened to one of my recruiters recently, and she was sick about it. Our front runner, when we shared the performance objectives of the job, she said, I don't want to be evaluated on that. That shows me that we're not on the same page. Well, as painful as that was, it shared us possibly having to make her an offer and her turning it down, or worse, having her accept the job and then quit because she doesn't like how she's being evaluated. Clients also feel that we present the same candidates as their internal talent acquisition team. And they go, we're not paying you fees and margins so that you can run job board ads like we do. When did you quit recruiting? We thought you all had this great network. I actually, between you and I'm an owner too. I pay for no resources for my recruiting team, none. We have no paid resources because their best resources are their creativity, and probably, I think this year we're running roughly 55% of all the candidates we've placed in jobs since the beginning of the year are referred candidates. So, and it should be, if you have people working for you that have been working for you for more than 2 years, then at least 40% of their candidates and 40% of the new clients should be the result of referrals. And so, again, referred candidates are not the candidates that are answering the job board ads for your clients. So they're not going to feel that you're presenting the same candidates as their internal acquisition team. And it's something we really have to work at. They also feel that we ask for skills. They also ask for skills that may be not utilized on the job. And that's why I'm telling you, if you don't have your sales team doing this, starting today, have your sales team, when they write business, ask for 5 performance objectives. How is this candidate going to be evaluated in 6 months, going to be evaluated in a year? You're going to see such a disconnect from your assignment, your contract, or your job order to the performance objectives. And so now you're going to realize, okay, so we can cross off a few things that they asked for, but we need to add something, because if we don't, this person's not going to be evaluated, properly. They feel that we charge too much. And understand something, you never want to be Walmart. You may not want to be, Nordstrom's, but you never want to be Walmart. You never want to get business because you've got the cheapest rates or you've got the lowest margins. Because you and I both know, as owners, our expenses have gone up 5 times as high as they were 10 years ago. 5 times as high as they were 10 years ago. And they just keep escalating. Your charges and my charges, insurances, and all the things, workman's comp, all the expenses that we have as business owners, those never go down. And again, you never want to be the lowest price unless you're doing high volume VMS business and it's your business model and you're good at it and you're doing a high volume. Then you might go for the lowest, the lowest bid type of business. But I think that what clients want, and they tell me this when I'm speaking in front of their audiences, we really don't care what you charge. If you send us people we don't get on our own. But what we get angry with is you're charging these exorbitant fees, or these exorbitant, bill rates, and you're giving us the same candidates we're getting if we put a job board ad there. All we want is a return on our investment. So think about that. And you can't give a new customer a better rate than you're giving your existing current good clients. And that's what I say when anybody ever asks me for a discount or a lower rate. I go, as much as I'd love to tell you we can do that, it would not be good business for me to give you a better rate than I'm giving our best client. And I would never do that to you once you become one of our best clients. These rates are based on, what we see out there, and we're going to represent candidates you're not going to find on their own. They often are not on the same page as others involved in the hiring process, and that's why, I always believe in sending a copy of whatever business we've written and have everybody sign off on it, because so often if somebody's been in the job a couple years and they give you the assignment, the contract, or the job order that they used when they hired this person, the job has changed because the hiring authority has used the skills of the person in the job. And now your whole team is working on an order that's not accurate because the person, their direct report, had no input. Have everybody sign off on the job orders and the assignments and contracts your team is writing, because now everybody's on the same page. And they often feel like a source of revenue. Clients complain to me all the time that we bombard them when we want their business, that we're nurturing and we're telling them all the reasons, all the things we can do for them. And then they hire somebody through us and we never call to check how the person is doing. And I want to be honest with all of you as owners. When I speak at conventions and I tell the recruiters, you've got to follow up with the candidates you place, and I tell the account executives, you got to follow up with the clients to make sure they're satisfied. And they'll say, we don't want to call because we don't want to know. Like if we don't call, maybe they won't mention something. We don't want to fall off. And I go, no, that's not it at all. There could be a little tiny issue, and one phone call from you can prevent that from being a major problem. You've got to change these perceptions to differentiate and grow your business. Even when they feel you're all alike, it's so easy. It's so easy to just give them expectations up front. And this is something that I've been teaching for the last 10 years. When your team interviews a candidate or when they are trying to get business from a client, right after that first conversation, send them a list. This is what you can expect from us. Share them everything you're going to do for them because they have no clue all the things that your company does for them. And that also helps justify the rates you're charging. And then show them what you need from them on the candidate side, what you need from them to find them a job they're going to accept without hesitation. And on the client side, what you need from them to present candidates that they're going to hire without hesitation. And when we tell clients what we need from them, we always follow it with how they're going to benefit by giving it to us. So think of ways that your team can differentiate up front so these realities are not the perception that clients have of your company. Next, I want to get into that you have to protect yourself. Oh, I'm sorry, 10 internal team realities. I was jumping the gun here. Your internal team has changed too. You all know that. And by the way, I can tell you during COVID, I got so many calls from owners that were shocked that their people had to keep going back to the office because they had notes on Post-it notes and legal pads, and they didn't have much entered into the ATS or CRM. And so I think all of you as owners, you learned a lot, didn't you, through COVID? Those of you that could just keep going without hesitation, you had systems in place, you had processes in place, and your team knew exactly what to do. Everybody, we had a couple of our people get very, very ill, and anybody could just jump in and work their desk because we all fill in the same fields in our ATS, we all follow the same processes, the same systems. Your business has to be set up like a franchise. When you hire someone new, they have to go through the exact same training that your current people did. They have to enter information the same way. There has to be a recruiting process, a sales process, because how else are you as an owner going to be able to make improvements if everybody's not doing things the same way? But your current team realities, it's very difficult to attract, hire, and retain internal team members. I know, it's interesting. We have a tutor that we sell, and we sell seats. And I've never seen so much hiring going on as been going on the last 6 months. And many people are just going out there trying to hire. What I'm telling you is that if you're hiring right now, you don't have to hire an experienced recruiter. Find a peak performer who wants to sell. That's the profile. You got to find somebody who's been a peak performer their whole life and they want to sell. I have 11 grandkids and I've got 4 of them that are peak performers. The other ones are great kids, but 4 of them have been peak performers since they were born. Competed in 4 or 5 sports, got straight A's, very active, just no matter what they touched, turned to gold. Those are the people you have to find. Ex-athletes that competed are very good hires because they're used to being coached. They take constructive criticism as coaching, not criticism. Find people, retail, people that are in district managers and retail make great recruiters because they worked their way up the ranks and now their job is a nightmare. A lot of my top producers came out of hotels, sales and catering managers of hotels. Love to sell, but they've got to sell the event, work the event, and they work 365 days a year, evenings, weekends, holidays. They come to work for us and they think that they've died and went to heaven. People from Enterprise Rental Car. Now that I'm back doing conventions again, I'm seeing again a lot of people from Enterprise. They've got one of the best sales training programs out there. But don't call your job anything but sales. Let them know this is a sales job. Much of it's going to be done on the phone. And again, if you're going to go out there and recruit the people that you want to work for you, let outside salespeople call on you. Let outside salespeople call on you. And the reason you're going to do that is because many of them don't want to be outside, but they don't think they can earn the money they're earning anyplace else. And of course they can, working for you. So when you want to attract your internal team, make sure that you're recruiting them. You're not putting an ad out there. We tell our clients not to put ads out there. And sometimes we place an ad for our internal team. And you never want to fill a desk. I'd rather have empty desks in my office than to hire less than the person I want. Peak performers are being recruited away, often by clients. So your clients, when they've got one of your people that are doing a really good job for them, they're recruiting your recruiters away, and often they pay them a much higher base salary. Corporations pay a much higher base salary than we pay, but if you look at what recruiters earn in staffing and recruiting and what talent acquisition people earn, there's a big difference when you're successful. You could earn a lot more money doing what we do. Temp workers and contractors are being recruited away by their coworkers. The offsite employees are either your army of recruiters or they're being recruited away. And I want you to think about that for a minute as a business owner. Everybody your business has placed in a job in the last several years, all those people are either your army of recruiters. And when people talk about changing a job or that, they're saying, you got to go to this staffing firm. They're wonderful. They did such a good job for me. Or they're being recruited away by your competition. There's no other option. So everybody you've placed in a job, on an assignment as a contractor, these are either your army of recruiters or they're being recruited away. And the only way they become your army of recruiters is if you nurture them after you find them a job. And that's one area as an owner that you really have to look into. You really have to look into your nurturing and follow-up program after somebody's placed in a job and they value personal and career development. Again, we're talking millennials and Gen Z as being the majority in the workforce. Your team is no different. You're going to be hiring these generations as well. And they've got to see personal growth and career development or you're going to lose them. They know they're in demand and your team knows they have options. They also are putting a premium on flexibility. I want to give you an example. I was doing some consulting for an owner of a staffing firm, and one of his biggest problems was he had 4 people that always come in late. And he said, Barb, we open at 8. I'm not talking 8:10. I'm talking 8:30, 8:45. Sometimes they miss the morning meeting. And he goes, but they're really good producers. They do a great job for me. I don't want to let them go, but my senior people, my tenured people are just, it makes me look bad that I'm just letting them come in late. And I've threatened them. I've told them I put them on probation, but then I didn't do anything because I don't want to lose them. And I said, well, why don't you do flexible hours? And he goes, what do you mean? I go, why don't you have hours from 8 to 5 and 10 to 7 and let anybody that works for you choose what they want to work. And so he did this about 3 months ago. And I talked to him last week and it was funny because he goes, Barb, they're there till 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. They don't mind staying there, but they're just not morning people. And so I've got coverage in my office from 8 to 7. So think creatively. How can you provide some kind of flexibility? Or if they hit goals, can they work 1 day virtual a week? I had my team in Chicago where they could earn a half a day off, a whole day off, 2 days off. And it was interesting because, I finally had to say, not everybody can take Friday off because we had so many people earning time off. And this was way before COVID. Because I realized people really value working from home. But you know what? When my team was taking the day off or working flexible, I would give them days off. They could earn days off. They were still working because they wanted to earn the days off the next month by surpassing their goals. So think about how can you win and have your team win on the same, in the same program. They also put a premium on remote or hybrid work arrangements. They desire recognition. And they want to be managed by you and they want feedback. I'm a baby boomer, and if somebody gave me constant feedback, I would think they were micromanaging me. What I would have considered micromanaging, millennials and Gen Z love because they feel you care about them and you're guiding them and you're mentoring them. And where somebody could have put a little note on my desk and said, Barb, great job. Like a little note on my desk, that would have been enough. Millennials and Gen Z would prefer if you make an announcement in front of everybody, or you put some recognition on your intranet, or you recognize them. Your internal team wants recognition, and they are surrounded daily by networking and job opportunities. Don't forget that. They're reading every job that comes in. And so if you want to maintain your team, you've got to find out, are there skill set that they have that they're not using? There's so many things that you can do. Are you doing stay interviews with your team? Why are they working for you? What makes them happy? Is there any skill set that they're not using that they love to use? Because they might leave you for that reason. Don't make the only interview you do for your internal team their hiring interview and their exit interview. Do stay interviews. Don't in between performance reviews. Stay interviews are just letting them know that you care about them and you want to know why they're staying. What do they like? Is there anything they'd like seen improved? And be open to listen to things. As an owner, as a business owner, entrepreneur, you've got to be the best listener in your company. Next, I want to talk about something else that I find most owners in the staffing and recruiting firm are not doing, and that's protecting yourself and your business. You've got to protect yourself and your business, and you can accomplish that by implementing the following strategies. Number one, you never want to be the top producer of your firm. Never. You've got to replace yourself, or all you've done is bought yourself a job. You want to add additional sources of revenue. Do you have affiliate income? Have you unbundled services? Are you putting money aside to invest in passive sources of income? And do you have a blended business model? If you are not doing both temp and contract and direct hire, you're leaving a ton of money on the table. And clients now want to work with one firm for all their needs. Do you have an exit plan? Because all the decisions that you make should align with your exit plan. If you don't have an exit plan, you're probably making wrong decisions today. And I mentioned this earlier, set up your business like a franchise. You have to have systems and processes for everything. Number 5 is you've got to be the most organized person in your company, because prosperity is not drawn to disorganization. And never, ever allow a client to represent more than 15% of your revenue. This put many companies out of business in the last 2 years, where they were getting most of their revenue. In fact, when I do consulting for owners, I have found that most staffing and recruiting firms get 75% of their revenue from less than 5 clients. That's dangerous. That's not recession proof. You want to have multiple contacts within each client, okay? And the reason you want to do that is because if your client leaves, you don't want to lose the client because your contact left. You want to personally meet with the owners of your clients at least annually, because too often your clients don't know you. They know your recruiter or they know your salesperson. They have no loyalty to you as the owner. You need to get out there and meet with the owners of your client companies at least annually. Take them to events. Let them know you as an owner. This is best use of your time as an owner, is to make sure that you're aligning your clients to you. I've had owners tell me, well, my salesperson doesn't want me to talk to the client. What? You're the owner, and you should know the owners of all the clients that you're doing business with. All clients should have 2 contacts in your office, because if you got someone in your office and that's the only person that knows about this client, if your recruiter quits, nobody can pick up where that recruiter left off. So there have to be 2 contacts in your office with every one of your clients, their main contact and then a backup. Build teams around your big billers. I call them production pods. This helps retain your big billers, because multiple individuals also are building rapport with your clients. And if you lose a big biller, it's not fatal, because you've got 3 other people that know everything that's going on. Place your assets in an irrevocable trust. Own nothing. Control everything. Assets placed, will end up in probate. If something happens to you and you don't have an irrevocable trust, everything ends up in probate, and everything you're building, your heirs are gonna at least lose 1/3 of everything you're building as an owner. And some of your big billers, anybody that has more than $50,000 in assets, that includes home, car, whatever, which is most people, they should have a trust and not a will. And again, this is something you're going to talk to an attorney about. I'm not an attorney. I just know that I spent a ton of money to have a will for a long time. And when I finally got a really good advisor, they said, oh my God, Barb, get your name off of everything. And also, if you ever get sued, you don't want your name on anything. The name of the trust should be on your car, your home, everything you own should be part of your trust. Number 12, take 5% of your cash in, or 5% of your GMP, your gross margin of profit. Place it in a reserve fund that draws interest. And just tell yourself that that's going to be to purchase passive sources of income. And what's funny, when you have money in an account and it's sitting there drawing interest, and you've told yourself, this is for passive income, all of a sudden you're going to get passive income opportunities, and you're not even going to realize, you're not going to have to go out and look for them, because you're going to draw them to you because you're saving money to buy passive sources of income. Things like storage units, laundromats, tax liens. There's so many things. These have to be things that can make money without taking any of your time. 13, and I learned this the hard way, back up your data. If your ATS, back office, or files and folders are in the cloud, you want to make sure that your data is protected from hackers, especially crypto viruses. I did not realize that my system, I was sharing a cloud with someone, and when a crypto virus hit somebody else on my cloud, it wiped out a good percentage of our information. This was a few years ago, but it was a horrible lesson to learn. And so when you're dealing with these ATS or CRM companies, ask them these questions. Do they monitor infrastructure daily for crypto viruses and other hacks? Are you isolated from other clients? Obviously, now I have my own cloud. I was spending a ton of money. I didn't even realize I was sharing a cloud. Is all data segmented and continuously monitored? Does your service agreement have the following in writing? A guaranteed uptime. How How soon will you be up if something does happen? What about a recovery point or a recovery time? Obtain a backup of your ATS or CRM data. Contact your vendor and ask them if there is a way you can get a copy of your data in an industry standard format, either SQL or XML. Every 3 months, download a copy of it. So if something does happen to your CRM or your ATS or the cloud, you're going to have a backup of all your data in your ATS. And I'm telling you, I learned this the hard way. And it's so funny because many of the things I'm teaching you, I've learned by making the mistakes. And that's why I like to do these calls and save other owners the problems, because for years of my life, I learned my own problems and my own mistakes. And then about 10 years ago, I said, you know what? This is very costly and time consuming. I'm going to start learning by other people's mistakes, which is much less costly. And that's why anything that hits me or any mistake I make, trust me, I'm going to share it with you, because I don't want you to feel the pain I felt at the time when this happened. You also want to increase the value of your business. And the best way to do that is you have to offer flexible staffing as well as direct hire options for your clients and your candidates. You may already own a successful temp or contract firm, but have never been able to generate those lucrative direct hire fees. And I'm telling you, for the first time in history, contract and temp and direct hire have both been flourishing. Usually when one is up, one is down, and then the other one's up and the other one is down. And for the last going on 4 years, direct hire has been just as strong as flexible staffing. And many companies now want to use the same resource for both. Or you may own a direct hire recruiting firm and realize the money you're leaving on the table by not offering temp or contract staffing and benefits of that recurring revenue model. Because that and by the way, when you have that recurring revenue model and your people are paid, monthly on the recurring revenue, it really enhances retention of your high achievers. In the past 2 years, I've helped many staffing and recruiting firm owners increase their sales and profits and the value of their business. What we did is we provide clarity so that they could add a new segment of our profession to their business or take steps to dramatically increase their revenue and profits if they, were a blended firm. And so I want to talk to you about something today that basically nobody else knows about, and you're going to be the first to know. We're going to be launching 2 online tutors because I've spent the last 2 years teaching so many direct hire firms how to add flexible staffing, and so many flexible staffing firms how to add, the direct hire. And it's expensive because I'm doing one-on-one with them, and it takes a long time. And so what I finally have done is I've spent the last 6 months in a studio, and I've recorded a 35 lesson. It's video or written, add direct hire tutor, and a 35 lesson video and written add flexible staffing tutor. And if you are not a blended firm, I'd love to discuss what it could be worth to you or what it could be costing you not to have both flexible staffing and direct hire. And what's included is a 35 lesson tutor, a comprehensive resource library, weekly training webinars with me where I answer questions, and bi-weekly coaching calls where you can get on and ask me any question and I'll guide you. You are the first to know. And if you are a blended firm already, but I find most temp and contract firms play at direct hire but don't know really how to make a lot of money on it. And most direct hire firms don't know how to launch, temporary or contract staffing. So what I'm doing on this webinar, because we're going to be launching very shortly here, but I always do a pre-launch. And I thought this would be a great time to offer the people that are on this call, we're going to give you 50% off. This program, this 35 lesson program for an owner is $28.97, but we're knocking $1448.50 off. So for the first 10 people that are on this webinar, and we have almost 300 people on this webinar, the first 10 people that invest, you can get this pre-launch price of $1448. The next steps, if you have questions, call Jody, and there's her phone line. She's our VP of Sales. I'm going to send you a recording of this call. I'm going to send you a video that I made for you. I'm going to send you the outlines of the Add Direct Hire Tutor and Flexible Staffing Tutor, and you'll have that probably later today or first thing tomorrow morning. A discussion with one of our experts will determine if this makes sense for you or not, but one thing I know for sure, you're not going to regret the time you spend talking to us, because we can at least discuss your priorities and see where you might be able to even improve on your own. Now I want to open the line for questions, and you can ask me any questions you want about this program or any other topic that's important to you, because I believe that your questions I don't want anybody leaving this call and not feeling that this call was worth your time. And so if you go to the right-hand side, when you called in, I gave you a telephone number, an access code, and a PIN number. If you put all 3 numbers in, go to the attendee list, and you're going to see your name, and you're going to see a little hand that looks like a hand being raised. And if you click on that, I can unmute your line, and you and I can talk. And so we can talk one-on-one. Or if you'd rather type in a question, you can go down below, and you see the gray bars on the bottom, and you see the word questions. And if you type in a question, I will answer your questions. And the other thing is, if you have questions and you don't want me to use your first name, I always use the first name. If you don't want me to use your first name, then just put down anonymous or confidential, and I won't read your first name. So this is from Lynn. What applicant tracking system do you recommend and why? I would recommend a couple of them, Lynn. What I would have to know is exactly what you're doing. Like, are you blended? Are you strictly a temp firm, a contract firm, a direct hire firm? Are you blended? What is your niche? How big are you? What do you intend to do with your company? Because a lot of that, so what I would say, Lynn, send me the specs. I see you're a blended firm, but send me more information about your niche and the size and this type of thing. And by the way, owners, there is not an ATS system out there that anybody likes, just so you know. So if you're looking for an ATS system that your people are going to love, it doesn't exist. And let me tell you why. It's because we're salespeople and we don't like detail. And we don't, most ATS systems are not working because your recruiters and salespeople are not using them. In my organization, if it's not in the ATS, it doesn't exist. It has to be in the ATS. If it's not, it doesn't exist. I don't want anybody taking notes on a legal pad or post-it notes. In fact, we don't allow those. We don't allow post-it notes or legal pads or notepads. We want everything in the ATS. And the reason your people hate the ATS is they're a salesperson and they don't want to be bothered entering it. But the best way to get credibility is to quote what somebody said. Quote what a candidate said to you. Quote what a client said to you. And the only way you can do that is if you're in your ATS. And so I'm currently using RMS Tracker, and I do really like it. But again, I'm not saying that that's the right system for you. What I would say to all of you, if you're thinking of changing, to a different ATS or a CRM, write down everything you wanted to do before you talk to somebody. Write down your have-tos, deal breakers. This has to do this. This is what I want our system to do. I want it to be simple, and I want to do this, okay? And then when you talk to the ATS company, just ask them if they do what you need. Because all those bells and whistles you're paying for, half the time you don't use them, and you're spending way too much. And then talk to people that have the system you're thinking of investing in and get their feedback. Talk to the other owner that is using that system and get their responses. Will there be a copy of this recording available to me? This is Rena. Yes, Rena. I'm going to send you a copy of this. I'm going to send you a video that I made for all of you, and then I'm going to send you an outline of the tutors and some additional information. So you're all going to get this after the call. Anonymous, how can staffing firms retain recruiters leaving for corporations? The only way you can do that, Allison, is if you are providing training and development, if you've got your organization set up as a franchise, if there's places people can go, like what other things can they do for you? Can they become a senior recruiter or a senior account executive? Do they mentor? When you have somebody mentor a new hire, it's interesting because they can get a percentage of what that person does, so they have a vested interest. But, when you work for a corporation, you only have, say a handful of hiring authorities, 20 hiring authorities, whether you like them or not, whether they're realistic or not, you got to work with them. And we can pick and choose our clients. There's much more freedom in what we do. And we can do both, flexible staffing and have reoccurring revenue come in, as well as commissions from the direct hire fees. So long run, you do stay interviews and form teams around your big billers. If you do a production pod, that's how I maintain. I have 4 production pods. I have 16 people, and I have 4 production pods. And I'm telling you, it prevents turnover. It just does, because they work as a team and they complement each other, and they just love it. Let's see, this is John. If you do have heavy customer concentration, how can you diversify info into other accounts without ignoring your golden goose? Very easily. What you've got to do, John, is you've got to do revenue modeling. All of you should do revenue modeling. What is your best business? Look at where you've made placements and fills in the last 2 years. Where have you, not the business you wrote, what's the business you filled? And then look what kind of industry, how big are they? What are the job titles you place? you know, and get, you know, really know who you are, and then give directives to your sales team as well as your recruiters. These are the 6 or 7 titles we're going to specialize in, pipeline those in advance, and then find other clients that mirror your current, you know, your current great clients. Because even if you have a golden goose, John, and it's making you a lot of money, if it represents more than 15% of your income, if something happens, there's so many acquisitions and mergers going on. If you lose your golden goose, where's your business? And so you want to have a flock of geese. You want to have a bunch of people. You know, if you're a direct hire firm, which it sounds like you are, you need 30 accounts, 10 key accounts, and 20 backups that hire from you, that when they have a hire, they think of you. You know, and again, set up Google alerts so that you see everything that's going on, and let companies know I've targeted you. Contact them 6 times in the first 9 weeks and let them know you really want their business using all forms of communication. But you know, you really want to you know, diversify. And if you ever want to sell your company, John, if you only got a handful of clients, it's very hard to sell your company. And by the way, if any of you want to sell, you have to have a blended firm. Another benefit of having a blended firm is it is the contract and temp business that is much more valuable than a direct hire firm. So if any of you only do direct hire, you're not going to be able to sell your company, or if you sell it, you're going to be shocked at what you're going to be offered. They just don't sell. You know, I deal with owners all the time. Please confirm your ATS. It was RMS Tracker. So it's RMS Tracker is a system that I use. How long will this offer be on the table? This is from Peter. It'll be on the table until 10 people invest. I mean, the reason I'm doing that is this group is going to be kind of my beta group. It's the first group I'm going to put in my new product. And then I'm going to guide them a little bit more and mentor them a little bit more. I do this anytime I roll out a new product, you know, and I want to get their feedback. And so I'm letting them invest at less than, you know, 50% less than another person would. How do I get my big billers to listen to anything? This is from Susan. If in fact you've got big billers that just don't follow the rules and don't follow the systems and that's very difficult for you to build around. Because again, you know, if you've let them kind of be little rebels and go do what they want to do, that's not building a franchise for you. That's not you having systems in place. And so what I would do is I would just start developing systems and little by little incorporate them into it. Because if you're not managing people, if people are managing you and you're the owner, it discredits you as a manager or an owner, you know, and you might let them work virtually. You might give them a private office to, you know, kind of get them away from the people that you're trying to get to follow systems, but you've got to show them the benefit to them to start following systems, and they will. Let's see. One more question. Local firms used to benefit from more customer contact, client visits. Lots of that went away during COVID. Should we start doing business anywhere? Just use video to meet clients, or do you think a local firm advantage still holds? I think, John, that you have to have a sphere of influence. And so if you're going to go to another territory, say that I'm in Chicago, and if I wanted to do business in Wisconsin, you know, say I want to do business in Milwaukee, then I'm going to get at least 5 clients in Milwaukee. You want to have spheres of influence, because what's working right now, everybody, is you have to have 3 people on final interviews. If somebody is crossed out in the process, you want to backfill, and you want 3 opportunities for every candidate you represent, and you'll close 3 deals. If you only show a candidate 1 deal, they're going to accept counteroffers, do all kind of crazy things. And if you've only got 1 person in final, if they flake out on you, accept a counteroffer or do something, you're at 0. You want to have candidate 2 and 3. So the goal is, and you tell your team this, you want 2 to 3 people in final interviews, so backfill who's eliminated, and you want, the minute you book a candidate on an interview, you want to market them to the companies they want to work for and your best clients and get them 3 interviews. And so I think that the local firm, there's still an advantage to that. But if you go to different territories, you don't want 1 job in Chicago and 1 job in Indianapolis and 1 job in Milwaukee and 1 job in New Jersey, because now you've got all these candidates and nothing to do with them because you have no other jobs there. So if you're going to go in a different geographic area, make a commitment to get 5 clients in that area that hire the same kind of person. But I have never met a $1 million biller that worked in more than 4 or 5 cities, ever. They're very focused. Now they might have major cities, you know, but even in Texas, if I'm in Texas, Texas is like its own country, you know. And so if I'm housed in Dallas and I decide I want to do business in Houston, then I want to develop at least 5 clients in Houston. So when I surface a candidate, I have a client base that I can market them to, you know. And I still believe in client visits. I still believe in face-to-facing our clients twice a year. You know, and I met them during COVID. I took stadium chairs and Jimmy John's asked them what they wanted to eat, and I took their favorite sports chairs, stadium chairs. I was meeting them in parking lots. I was meeting them outside their buildings, and we'd sit there and have a drink and eat sandwiches, and people would walk by and thought it was the funniest thing they ever saw. And then after the lunch, I gave them the chairs because I knew what sports teams they backed. So I kept meeting with my clients, even as crazy as Chicago still is. The rules change daily. I never stopped seeing my clients, never stopped seeing them. Let's see here. Can I talk to you about the new products if I'm interested? Of course you can. I will be here only today. I'm leaving tomorrow for Houston, and I'm speaking at the Houston Association, and I'm emceeing they have a awards banquet. So I'm going to be in Houston for the next couple of days. I'm also doing some in-house training when I'm there. So I will be gone until Friday. But Jody's my VP of sales, which is why I put her in charge of this. And Jody's worked for me for over 15 years. And so she's like talking to a mini me. But again, if you've got any questions, if you call that number, I am here till 5 o'clock. I would love to talk to you. And again, the conversation, you'll never regret talking to us because we really ask great questions and we try to find out what are you doing? A lot of you say you have a blended firm, but you might be doing 1 direct hire a month, or you should be doing 5 a week, and just think of what that does to your bottom line. And so you'll never regret talking to us. You will never regret that. And again, you can email Jody. When you get the information from us after this call too, you can even go on our website and set up an appointment to talk to Jody. There's a video on our website, goodasgoldtraining.com, and we have Calendly. And so you can go in there and actually set up an appointment to talk to her. So you can call, you can email, you can go on our website, whatever's more convenient for you. Should I ask you or Jody about ATS? I know what you should do, Lynn, is you can send, I want you to send us the detail about what your company does, temp or contract, how many people, what is your exit plan, so we know what systems to recommend to you. But if you give the detail, just send it to Jody, and then she and I'll discuss like which ones we'd recommend to you. Okay, I'm getting a bunch of thank yous from all of you, and I'm so glad you're all here. And understand something, you can't see a turn in the road and keep going straight. Because if you eventually, and I think most owners, you've only got a couple choices when you exit your business. You are either going to sell it to the highest bidder, you're going to sell it to your employees, and you might set up like an ESOP, but that's extremely expensive, by the way, to do that. It's getting more and more expensive every time you're thinking of doing that. Or you close the doors. You take as much money out of your company. That's what most direct hire firms do. They just take as much money as they can when they're working. They invest in passive sources of income, and they close the door. But think about this, you could have a direct hire firm, and if you just added contract to it, you could sell it for millions of dollars. And so you got to think about, those are your 3 choices. And I talk to direct hire firm owners all the time that want to sell. And when I tell them what they're going to get, they're like amazed that they're going to get $50,000 for a firm that's doing 2 or 3 million in direct hire sales a year, because there's nothing to sell. There's no recurring revenue model. And so I just want you to all think about this, because I don't want you to be, trying to retire and then realize you don't have the nest egg you thought you built up. So I respect your time. We're right at the top of the hour. As I told you, I would never take more time than I say I'm going to take. Please reach out to us. You will be getting the recording of the call, the video, the outlines. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us. And best of luck to all of you. Now is the time when you should be making the most money. And if you're not, please implement some of the ideas that we discussed today. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.